I'm Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Injury Lawyers, and you know what makes me mad? When insurance companies deny your claim for no good reason. That's why people call me. I'm the lawyer insurance companies don't want to deal with. Visit goldfingerlaw.com and get us working for you.
Get Goldfinger today.
Hello and welcome to the Raptors Reaction Podcast. I'm your host, William Loom, speaking to you after Toronto Raptors took down the Miami Heat for a very, very satisfying and very impressive victory, winning on Sunday afternoon by a score of 125 to 104. Coming into the game, this had all the markings of a trap game. I mean, so much so that the Heat, who are 4 games under 500, were favored by Vegas against the Raptors, who are 48 and 19. And the reason for that is, look, the Raptors had an easy feel-good win on Friday against the Pelicans. They spent Saturday night in Miami, and all the trappings that go with South Beach. The Raptors are losing an hour to daylight savings, and also it was an afternoon game. I mean, we've seen it. Afternoon games, in Toronto, the Raptors would feast. Even when they were a shitty team, they would feast on opponents just because, they had that home court advantage. And you throw on the fact that Kawhi Leonard was, load managing again, which is fine, as the Raptors, playing a back-to-back tomorrow. Apparently he's going to play against the Cavs. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, the end result was that, it looked like the Raptors are going to get, not picked off, but it just seemed like a situation where, the Heat would capitalize. And the Heat have been playing good basketball of late. They haven't really beaten too many impressive opponents, although I guess they did beat the Hawks and the Nets, who are also playing okay at the moment. But the Heat were on a 4-game win streak, and so it seemed like the Heat would come in and give the Raptors a hard time. I mean, the Raptors have generally had some struggles against the Heat over the years, but man, the Raptors, this was such an impressive performance. First off, they had 21 threes, which tied a franchise record dating back, I think, like 15-something years. Maybe it was the Donyell Marshall game. Who knows? But 21 threes by the Raptors as a team. 32 assists. The Raptors moved the ball beautifully. They shot the ball really beautifully. And that basically set the tone. But it really was just really efficient offense by the Raptors against the Heat team that are pretty good defensively. Like, they don't really have minus defenders on the team. They have a couple guys who might get out of position a little bit. But for the most part, like, outside of Waiters and Olenek, those are all pretty good defenders that they have in the rotation. And the Raptors, they handled them. They shot 57% from the field. Again, they shot 43s, hit 21 of them. That's 52%. And got to the free throw line for 26 attempts. So, like, just really efficient offense by the Raptors as a whole. The Heat did force a couple of turnovers out of the Raptors. But the Raptors overall played at an incredible pace, led by Kyle Lowry, who was just masterful. I mean, back-to-back Sundays where Kyle Lowry has dominated. I mean, last Sunday, that was Kyle getting 35 against the Pistons. And they lost that game in overtime, whatever. But this game, Kyle was a plus 31 in 35 minutes. Now, plus minus doesn't always, give you an accurate picture of how a player played. But, I mean, the reason why Kyle was plus 31 was because he was great with the starting unit. And then great with the second unit as well. And this is one of the, even more than the three-point shooting, which whatever. We know the Raptors can get hot sometimes and hit some threes, although this is very nice to see. Outside of the three-point shooting, it was just the big takeaway from this game was that the Raptors bench actually played well and extended a lead. The Raptors went to their bench unit to close out the game for most of the fourth quarter. It was about a 10-point game for, most of the third quarter. And it was, not tense, but it felt like the Heat could, hit 1 or 2 threes and get themselves back into the game. And they're starting to play this physical brand of defense that, the Heat are really good at. They're swarming the ball. And the Raptors' second unit, they handled that pressure beautifully. And you got to take your hats off to them. Now, part of that was because Kyle was playing with them. And, obviously, it's just Kyle brings a level of structure that, quite honestly, nobody else in the Raptors has been able to do and replicate for the entire season, regardless of who's been in and out of the lineup. But it was mostly that Kyle and Marc Gasol were able to just stabilize the Raptors' offense, handle the Heat's pressure. I mean, the Heat, against the Raptors' second unit, they played a couple of different schemes. And in the first half, they tried zone. Didn't really work because the Raptors, hit all these threes in zone. It's not ideal. But The Raptors able to beat that because Gasol was, they stationed Gasol in the middle of the floor. They got the ball into the post. Gasol would draw a defender to him, and then he would either find the open shooter or he would kick it out and, lead to swing sequences where eventually they got open corner threes for the most part. So Gasol was able to bust the zone, and his playmaking and passing as a center is just such an asset. And then it became an asset again in the fourth quarter where the Heat were trapping really hard, forcing Kyle, forcing, even Jeremy to give up the ball. And, what the Raptors did was they made good passes to Gasol, who's, stationed himself higher up the floor, above the three-point arc, would catch the pass. And then again, swing the ball accordingly so that they can find the open man, because the Heat were trapping a lot, and that's just something the Raptors have never had out of their centers over this run. It's just a nice passer who, when the other team dials up the pressure, you have a guy who can sort of relieve that. And so, Gasol was great at that. Now, don't even look at the fact that he only had 3 assists. He moved the ball really well tonight. Was really important. Him and Kyle worked together beautifully, and it also helped that the rest of the guys, were able to actually play around them and actually finish, the opportunities that they were given. Right, like you got OG Anunoby, who played amazing today. Defensively, he was all over the place. I swear he defended every single player on the Heat, 1 through 5. He was that effective. But he was also going to the rim, and being decisive about it, making good cuts, challenging Hassan Whiteside at the basket. He hit his free throws, which is nice. He's been off with the free throw shooting early. I mean, he's just been off with his overall game for like half the year, but like of late, he's really come on strong. And I thought he was great tonight. He had a pair of really nice dunks in the fourth quarter as well. Although the best dunk of the night was definitely Derrick Jones Jr. Oh my God, that guy. I don't think he could do too much else besides dunk. He does have good length or whatever. We'll see if that actually translates into production. But man, that guy, he had a nice dunk. Go look that up. That was really nice. But OG had a pair of really nice finishes as well in the paint in the fourth quarter. He was able to play that 3-and-D role. Jeremy Lin, he missed a couple of open shots, but for the most part was able to capitalize off opportunities from Gasol and Lowry and finish. There's one sequence that really stood out to me in the fourth quarter where Lowry was red hot and the ball was swung right to him off an offensive rebound. And I think Lowry could have just shot the ball, but then instead he swung it into the corner for Jeremy, and Jeremy hit the shot. And Jeremy had been struggling up to that point. So it was nice to see Kyle. I mean, maybe, who knows? Maybe Kyle was just trying to make the right basketball play. Maybe it's not that deep, but it was nice, as a leader of the team, for Kyle to encourage Jeremy in that situation, because Jeremy has been struggling. But today, Jeremy was really solid, 11 points. 3 of 7 shooting, got to the free throw line 4 times, Defensively, he's actually really active. 2 steals, 2 blocks, including a block on Hassan Whiteside. That was rare, but Jeremy makes good rotations defensively, and he was in a lot of the right places. And also Norm. Norm, 15 points off the bench, 4 of 7 shooting, 3 of 5 from deep, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, had 4 assists. Most of those were in the first half. Basically, Gasol and Lowry are able to provide a structure for the rest of the bench to basically, you have OG, you have Norm, you have Lin, and those 3 their role is to finish possessions. And, I think the Raptors have largely struggled when it's been Jeremy dribbling the ball and trying to work pick and roll, or when Norm's trying to dribble and attack. Like, those guys, I don't know. Like, as creators, they haven't really thrived, but today as finishers, playing off of Lowry and Gasol, they looked really good. And I'm hoping that, when Fred VanVleet comes back, he can be that table setter. It's kind of the role he played last year with the bench. I mean, he set the pace for that bench mob. But for the most part, he wasn't as aggressive for his offense, his own individual offense, as he was this year. Right? We've seen VanVleet sort of extend his game, and it sort of hasn't looked great. He's sort of really forced his shot sometimes this season. But there is that steady element to the game where Fred is a pretty good table setter. And I think that's probably what the bench needs more than anything else. Just a guy who can set the table, and play a 2-man game of Gasol, because Gasol's going to create open opportunities for everybody. And, there was a clip that the Raptors broadcast showed where VanVleet was, he's working his way back from injury, but he's already trying to get reps in, working with Gasol before the game, just running him through drills and practice and warm-ups and stuff like that. And, the two of them, mimicking pick and roll sequences and stuff like that. I mean, it's great to see. And hopefully, if if VanVleet can hit the ground running, there's obviously not too much time left, but if he can hit the ground running and establish some chemistry with Gasol and also just, reestablish some familiarity and structure to the second unit, I think that would help the Raptors a lot because the starting unit definitely works. I mean, today, even without Kawhi, you got Pat McCaw coming in playing incredible defense, just such a pest. And also hitting some threes, splashed a pair of corner threes at the end of the second quarter to give the Raptors a nice cushion leading into halftime. You got him playing well. Danny Green turns into Ray Allen every time he plays in the Heat. It's great. Watching the Heat broadcast, they're just like they're just so miserable every time they see Danny Green. Of course, Danny Green also, in addition to winning a championship with the Spurs against the Heat. And nearly winning Finals MVP, that's the part that people sleep on. I mean, the year Kawhi won it, I mean, Danny Green was literally the favorite, heading into the last game where I think Kawhi, had a nice performance and also shut down LeBron and stuff like that. But, I mean, Danny Green, he already had that game winner earlier this season in South Beach. So today he's 5 of 8 from deep, 15 points, really solid in the first half. Wasn't really needed too much in the second half, so that's cool. Serge Ibaka, really nice block on, what's his name? Kelly Olynyk. Olynyk, he had a bad game. He was terrible today, man. He was awful. And then Pascal did what Pascal does, 25 and 5, a steal, a block, future Sean Marion in making. Maybe he's already there. Who knows? He looked really good today. So, Sean Marion, former Raptor and Heat legend. But, And in terms of your 3 stars, Kyle, obviously number 1 star, 24 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists, 8 of 14 shooting, 6 of 11 from deep, 2 of 3 from the free throw line. Had 6 turnovers, was, a little bit too aggressive sometimes. And got a tech as well. But, man, I mean, plus 31, 35 minutes. Great with the first unit, great with the second unit. He was just great overall. Second star goes to Pascal, 20 points, 8 of 12 shooting, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, of steal, a block. Just does a little bit of everything. One thing I like about Pascal is how much confidence he has, especially when he goes up against the other team's like best player. I wouldn't actually necessarily characterize Dwayne Wade as the Heat's best player. I think, on a night-to-night basis, there are other players that are going to be better on average. But, Dwayne was honestly the Heat's best player tonight. I think, him coming off the bench he was very effective. And there was one sequence where Pascal just he got down the floor early in transition, was able to force a switch onto Dwayne Wade. And Dwayne's a pretty good defender, even at his age. But Pascal made sure to take Dwayne one-on-one, go to the basket, score the layup, hit the and one. And, it's just nice to see Pascal have that moxie, that swag, because he always does this, whether it's against Giannis or against LeBron or against Kyrie, Pascal just makes sure to take your best player and make a statement against them. And he's developing really nicely. And then your third star, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can go about this. OG, I thought was really good. So I'm gonna give it to him. But honestly, you can give it to Powell. You can give it to Gasol as well. You can give it to Danny Green. You can give it to Pat McCaw. There's a lot of good performances tonight. So I'm just gonna give it to OG though because I'm rooting for OG, man. I think we should all be rooting for OG. He played crazy today. So that was it's nice to see. And then in terms of your Gerald Henderson Award, I mean, I don't know. It didn't really feel like anyone on the Heat played that well. I guess I'll give it to Rodney McGruder because at points I was like, holy shit, he is the second coming of Wayne Ellington, and I was so annoyed. But I don't know. He only hit 2 threes. I don't know. He had 13 points off the bench with 2 steals. That's not bad. So I'll give it to McGruder. But overall, great game for the Raptors. Great results. Not an easy game by any means. The circumstances really dictated that this was supposed to be a lot of advantages the Heat have on Sundays. But the Raptors came through with a very professional effort, a team effort. Hit a bunch of threes, got some assists. Let Kawhi rest that load, and the Raptors should honestly extend this win streak tomorrow when they play the Cavaliers. I'll be back to recap that one, and hopefully Kawhi plays. Peace.